The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation. Make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels. Operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants, as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, Klamath County Fire District Number 1, Oregon, on your new Pierce fire apparatus, job number 37613. Please utilize this 5-digit job number when referencing your apparatus with Hughes Fire Equipment and Pierce Manufacturing. We'll get started on a brief orientation. Let's start first just under the front bumper, where you'll find 2 tow hooks located on the passenger and driver's side. Moving up to the face of the front bumper, electronic siren and PA speaker. Just inside that location is where you'll find your air horns. Moving over to the driver's side is where you'll find your mechanical siren. And moving up onto the bumper extension in the center is where you'll find a tubbed storage location for hose storage along with Velcro tie downs. Moving over to the extension, you'll find a swivel discharge. As we move up onto the cab area on the outer edge, you'll find a marker turn indicator. Just inside that location on the face is where you'll find your headlight structure housing low and high beam headlights. Moving up from that location, turn indicator and emergency warning light combination. There are 3 windshield wipers across the seamless one-piece windshield. As we move to the outer edge where the A-pillar is located, you'll find a mirror housing a flat and convex mirror. Moving now to the center of the windshield, just inside the cab is where you'll find the Haas collision avoidance system. Moving to the brow, you'll find 5 identification clearance lights. Located in the center, forward-facing floodlight. As we move over to the driver's space, just on the roof area is where you'll find your Opticom. Located on the roof, emergency warning light bar. Let's take a close-up look at the things that we've just talked about. First, we'll start with the side of the bumper extension, where you'll also find an additional receiver hitch, 10,000 pounds direct pull. As we look now into the front bumper area for hose storage. And then we'll take a look at the swivel discharge, which is foam capable. We'll move now to a full side view of the apparatus from the driver's side. And we'll focus in next on the cab section, first starting with the front axle, where you'll find Alcoa wheel, and then also in the very center, a visual sight gauge into the center axle area. Also on the front bumper extension, side-facing emergency warning light. Into the stepwell area is where you'll find your air inlet. As we move up from that location, turn indicator marker light. Easily accessible with a gloved hand, these are your door latches. They are also keyed, and right next to those is where you'll find the grab handle for gaining entry and exit out of the cab. Just over the front axle is where you'll find your shoreline inlet auto eject, and then moving upward is where you'll find a side-facing cab scene light, and to the very rear wall is where you'll find a LED water tank level indicator. Let's move to the midsection area. We'll cover this in just a moment in great detail, but let's move on to the body section. In the lower portion is where you'll find your folding wheel chock storage locations for 2 wheel chocks. Also an additional receiver hitch located here, 10,000 pound direct pull. As we move up, you'll also find a marker light just in front of the rear axle. We'll talk about the pan doors in just a moment, and then we'll move up to a lower zone emergency warning light, and then up to the rear of the apparatus at the top section, the hatch area, is where you'll find a side-facing scene light and also an emergency warning light upper zone. We'll move around to the rear of the apparatus. There is a tow location in the very back section, a tow bar. As we move to the side, you'll find a brake, turn, and reverse light. Just inside that location is where you'll find an emergency warning light. This is the rear lower zone. And then as we move up, you'll find a ladder that does pull outward and drop down. That's for gaining access into the hatch hose bed area. Also a rear-facing scene light located on the passenger and driver side, and then a upper zone emergency warning light at the rear. As we move also to the center area, you'll find 2 discharges located just next to the Pierce logo. The difference between the sides here is we're going to find the exhaust on this side and then some additional bottle storage, which we'll go over that in great detail. Let's move now to the midsection area and then onto the cab area. Same configuration and layout as you'll find in this area. We're now into the driver's space. Let's start first with identifying a few items in this area. First, we'll start with the door panel. Affixed to the door panel is safety and warning placard information. Just up from that is a combination door lock and latch, manual window controls, and a grab handle. As we move to the step wheel area, this is the location for the air inlet. And as we move just inside the cab at the base of the seat pedestal, when plugged into shoreline power, the battery will indicate its battery status. Also like to point out the yellow placard here. We'll cover that in just a moment. Back to the battery voltage. Once again, when plugged into shoreline power, this will become active. Moving now to the Klamath County Fire Department District 1 placard indicating the date of manufacture, 5-digit job number, gross vehicle weight rating, cold tire inflation, the VIN number, and all of the fluid capacities for each component, fluid capacity, and also fluid type. As we move to the floor, you'll find the mechanical siren and air horn foot pedal. At about the left knee of the operators where you'll find your master battery switch, quarter turn, and then also the engine, transmission, ABS J1939 diagnostic port. This is for your maintenance team. As we move down, you'll also find ABS diagnostics, DPF regen, engine diagnostics, and regen inhibit switches. Let's move up to the dash area. We'll find on the far left-hand side of the dash the ignition and start switch. Just inside that location, switch labeled EM, which allows you to engage or disengage all emergency lights, headlight, and the panel switch, allowing you to brighten or dim lights within preview of the operator. On the right, OK to engage the high idle indicator and switch. On the left, we have gauges for transmission, oil, DEF, and water level. On the right, we have front air, rear air, fuel, and volts. In the center, you'll find the tachometer and speedometer. Diagnostic information will display above and also below the tachometer and speedometer. Let's move just slightly to the right of the operator. General view. We'll start at the very top section here with some switches. First, starting with an indicator for stationary OK to pump and roll, your water pump switch and foam pump switch. Just to the right, push to apply fluid, windshield wiper control. Also switches for engine brake on and off, a setting switch for low, medium, and high, mirror heat, load manager, diff lock, which is a protected switch, and also diff lock activated, which is an indicator. To the right, you'll find your pull to apply your system parking brake and push to release. Also your Allison transmission pad. Flat mirror and convex mirror control for passenger and driver side. Climate control for heat, air conditioning, and defrost. As we move just to the right of this location, 12-volt access via barrel style. Let's move overhead of the seated driver position where you'll find this yellow placard on the far left indicating the height of the vehicle, 10 feet 2 inches, length of the vehicle, 30 feet 9.75 inches, and a gross vehicle weight rating of 45,000 pounds. If you make any adjustments that may vary these, please update this placard. Let's move just to the right where we'll find some switch panels. First, starting with your emergency switch panel for emergency master, front scene, driver's side scene, passenger side scene, rear scene, and perimeter lights. When any of the switches have been activated, the green light will illuminate, indicating activation. To the right is your PA system and also electronic siren. To the right, you'll find an Opticom, siren or horn selector switch, and also a siren brake for your mechanical siren. You'll also find these throughout the vehicle. These are a warning indicating that you have spare wiring behind this panel, indicated by the type of option that is labeled on the top. Also, as we look to the center portion, this is where you'll find the Haas system located in the very center. Also, seatbelt information display indicating red, someone is in the seat and not belted, green, they're in the seat and belted. Also, a do not move your apparatus when light is on, indicating you have an open door or compartment ajar. As we move back to the front axle, Goodyear tire Alcoa wheel, visual sight gauge into the center of the axle area. Shoreline inlet, this is a 20 amp auto eject. As we move now into the rear portion of the cab, on the hinge side, you'll find a grab handle for gaining access in and out of the cab. Also a fixed-to-door panel, safety and warning placard information, door lock and latch, manual window control, and a grab handle. There are two rear-facing SCBA housed seats. As we move to the rear, we have an additional compartment here, roll-up compartment door. As we move to the very base, in between those two seats, you'll find a lift and turn latch. This is to gain access for your daily checks for oil and transmission. Let's take a quick look at the rear cab wall. Adjustable shelf, LED lighting inside this compartment. Let's go ahead and move back to the exterior. We'll now start with the very top section in the cross-lay compartment. First starting with backboard storage. Also a warning regarding entanglement hazard. Because of those lines coming from a loft, there's the possibility of entanglement. Also, we have cross-lay 1 and cross-lay 2, both foam capable. As we move down to the notch section or pump panel, you'll find two 2.5-inch discharge locally controlled via ball valve. Also a warning placard indicating pressure hazard. Caps may be under pressure. Be cautious when opening them. Also a warning regarding fall. When climbing on or off the vehicle, always face the vehicle. The Pierce American Flag Eagle is the large diameter pump inlet, and as we move down, a warning regarding foam. Do not mix different brands or consistencies of foam for the possibility of foam failure. In the very bottom section is our draft lever, and then to the right you'll find your 2.5-inch auxiliary inlet, locally controlled female. A couple of close-ups of those items now. Let's move now to the pump panel area, starting first at the very top section. If you've engaged your pump properly from the cab, this light will be illuminating, indicating OK to pump. As we move to the left, we have a gauge heater, and then as we move further to the right to the blue module, this is where you'll find the water tank level indicator. Moving into the gray engine information area, we'll find a few gauges here, first with a fuel gauge, volts, water, and then also oil pressure and tachometer. There are some tally lights in this area for stop engine, check transmission, and check engine. Moving further to the right is your master intake gauge, and then on to the right side is your master discharge gauge. In between the two of those, you'll find the test gauge ports for vacuum and pressure. These are currently plugged and are utilized for testing purposes. To the right, you'll find the PCM fault indicator, tally light, and also audible alarm. Moving down now on the pump panel area, we'll start first with the front discharge, number 1 crosslay and number 2. These are all foam capable. You'll also find your foam system instructions and specifications for the Husky 3 foam system just beneath that. To the right, you'll find the driver rear discharge, also foam capable, and the green module is your foam level indicator. To the right, the Husky foam system module. There are instructions on its placard for its operation. Moving further down, you'll find the intake relief valve also has instructions on the placard for its operation. Let's move downward and slightly to the left on the pump panel. We'll start first with your minimum operation maintenance schedule. We'll come back to this in just a few moments, but let's move down to the tank fill and recirculating line. And then right next to that is where you'll find the tank to pump. Moving just to the right, you'll find the discharge relief valve. And then in the upper corner, you'll find your fire pump primer, push to prime air. For best practices, at least 1,000 RPMs. Just underneath that, you'll find the throttle and also a push for idle. Moving to the right, a warning regarding only trained personnel should operate this piece of equipment, and that's only after proper training. As we move down, we have the passenger rear discharge. This is a non-foam capable discharge, and then also your deluge discharge to the right. There are 2 electric valves located, number 2 passenger side and large diameter passenger side. As we move to the vertical wall, you'll find some switches here for scene lights and also an air horn switch. Moving down to the very bottom, all of our color-coded labeled discharge drains, but let's take a look in the pan door now, where you'll find this yellow handle, which coincides with the instructions on the left regarding foam fill operation position. Also, we have a manual pump shift override. It is a protected switch with an indicator. Moving from this location downward, you'll find all of our color-coded and labeled discharge drains. Let's move back up to the minimum operation maintenance schedule. These were test pressures at 150, 200, and 250 psi. On the left-hand side is the associated GPM at that test pressure, and then on the right-hand side of the placard is the associated RPM. The governed speed while in pump mode is 2,400 RPM, and it also has the 5-digit job number. Moving to the vertical wall is where you'll find in the forward compartment your battery charger. When plugged into Shoreline Power, this item becomes active, maintaining your batteries. You'll also find in the compartment directly over the rear axle a tool board. When that tool board has been opened, the lock mechanism on the hinge side will lock in position. As we move just in front of the rear axle, it's where you'll find the def fill location. 4.5 is the size of the tank, and it is a blue cap. Goodyear tires, Alcoa wheel. Just move to the rear of the axle, and this is where you're going to find your fill location for your ultra low sulfur diesel. It's the silver cap. Moving toward the rear of the apparatus, the next compartment is where you'll find an adjustable shelf, and then also at the very top section, an adjustable shelf that pulls outward and tilts downward with the release mechanisms located on the right and left side. Just at the base of this compartment, you'll find the 9,000-pound direct pull for your winch rating receiver. All compartments open now on the driver's side. Let's move around to the rear of the apparatus. We have compartments open and the ladder deployed. We'll start now in the area upper section with your rigid hose storage location for your drafting tubes. Also 10-foot folding ladder, additional storage location for long-handled tool storage. Also pointing out on the ladder, we do have some pinch point notifications here regarding warning. As we move to the rear scene, you'll find the cup light to control the rear scene lights. Also some warning placards here regarding pressure hazard. Caps may be under pressure. Be cautious when opening them. Also a warning when climbing onto the vehicle or off the vehicle, always face the vehicle. And as we move down to the very bottom, you'll find an additional warning placard here regarding never ride on the vehicle while it is in motion. As we move to the center compartment roll-up door, you'll find this is a through compartment to passenger driver's side, also adjustable shelves, and at the very bottom section we have a pull-out tray release mechanism located on the lower right. Long-handled tool storage. As we move down from this location, this is where you're going to find the driver's rear discharge. It is foam capable. As we move around to the opposite side, passenger side rear discharge, this is not foam capable. As we move to the ground ladder storage, 24-foot extension, 14-foot roof. Also, as we move around to the passenger side, 2 adjustable shelves in the upper portion and a pull-out tray in the lower section. Release mechanism for this located on the far right. Also on this side, you'll find the receiver hitch, once again 9,000-pound direct pull. As we move to the next compartment, you'll find SCBA bottle storage here for 6 SCBA bottle storages locations, and they also have DuraSurf on the bottom section to protect the bottles, and also safety straps. Moving back now to the rear axle, Goodyear tires, Alcoa wheel. What I would like to point out in this area is that we do have our exhaust located just in front of the rear axle. Extremely hot diesel exhaust temperatures do exist. Be cautious when performing a regen operation as to where you park your vehicle. Let's move into the next compartment. This is the compartment forward of the axle. Adjustable shelves located here. Also in these compartments we have LED lighting on both sides. As we move now to the crosslay area, we'll start at the very top section. Once again, a warning placard indicating entanglement. Also backboard storage in the front bulkhead area. In the bottom, same configuration and layout as we have on the driver's side. We'll now move to the notch area where you'll also find your cab lift operation module. We'll come back to that. The Pierce American Flag Eagle is our large diameter passenger side pump inlet. Also an electric valve controlled 2.5-inch discharge with an override, and we'll go through that in a moment. And then just beneath that, you'll also find the large diameter discharge with an override, and then also your 2.5-inch auxiliary inlet, locally controlled ball valve, female inlet. All of our drains are located down at the very bottom section, which are color-coded and labeled. Let's move back up to the left side of the pump panel where you'll find the cab lift operation module. There are instructions for raise and lower, and also caution and danger placard. Just as a reminder, make sure all items are secure within the cab area. Also, the 2.5-inch and along with the large diameter discharge have an override. That's the tool that's required to override the electric valve. As we move downward, you'll find the passenger side auxiliary inlet, locally controlled ball valve, and then all of our color-coded and labeled discharge drains. As we move to the very bottom of the pump panel, I would like to point out that your pump panel is fully enclosed. Let's move into the cab area. We'll start with the hinge of the door where you'll find that red grab handle for gaining entry and exit. Also a fixed door panel, safety and warning placard information, door lock and latch, grab handle, and manual window controls. As we look overhead, you'll find your air conditioning unit. Also push on and off white or red lens lights. As a reminder, 2 rear-facing SCBA seats located here, directly behind the driver and officer. As we move now to the front axle, once again, Goodyear tire, Alcoa wheel, visual sight gauge in the center of that axle. Let's move now into the officer space. Let's start with the door panel, of course. A fixed door panel, safety and warning placard information, door lock and latch, window control here, manual, and also grab handle. As we move to the officer seat area, to the right is where you're going to find on the floor area a mechanical siren foot pedal. Then as we look toward the left side of the officer forward position, you'll find a siren brake for your mechanical siren. Overhead, just a general view, push on and off white and red lens lights. I would like to point out that in the very top section in some of these cutout locations, you'll find these red and white labels indicating spare wiring behind the panel, indicating the type of option number and also wire termination. Please don't remove these. These are for your maintenance team. As we move to the exterior on the roof area of the cab, you'll find this is a non-walking surface, and we've identified that here with a warning placard indicating fall hazard. We'll go through now the dunnage section of the area, where you're going to find your master stream device located on the very top, as you can see to the right in the image, and then also your hydraulic fill for your Husky foam system. You will find yellow diamonds indicating the edge of the walking surface for firefighter safety. Also in the dunnage, you'll find your foam top fill for foam tank A and a warning placard indicating don't mix different brands or consistencies of foam. Also top fill water fill location. As we move back to the hose bed cover, this can sustain a person's weight. And also when we lift up that cover, you'll find there are 3 hose bed dividers which are adjustable. The next set of images are going to be that of the undercarriage, including the engine area. I want to point out in this image, these are your 2 forward tow hooks. And then also you can see the attachment point for the receiver hitch for your winch. And as a reminder, that is direct pull. As we move to the cab lift, I would like to point out when you have fully engaged the cab lift and you have equal pressure on both cylinders fully extended, please place this safety bar into position. Do not lower the cab onto the safety bar. Maintain equal pressure on both lift cylinders. As we move through the various functions of the engine area, we also have at the rear of the engine our daily checks for oil and transmission, also fluid checks for hydraulic fluid for your pump, located on the very far right-hand side of this area. Also, we have battery terminal locations located just underneath the battery box, indicated here with a red positive and a black negative. Just as a reminder, just a quick image here of your pump fully enclosed. These are your access panels. This will conclude the additional chassis and also engine photos. We do have a short video of your vehicle with the emergency warning lights activated. Congratulations, Klamath County Fire District 1, Oregon, on your new Pierce fire apparatus. If you have any questions, please contact your Hughes Fire sales representative. Thank you.